Hello, and welcome to CGRB, Conservative Gospel Radio Broadcast. I'm your host, Stephen Zion Smith, and our teaching will continue today. This is part 4, and we left off here in after the genealogy of Cain, and we're taken back up with the godly line of Seth. Now, to recap a little, we started with the birth of the earth, the birth of creation, where the earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and that the earth was surrounded with water, and this was the womb, the earth in its womb. And then on the first day, light, God said, "Let there be light," and light came into the world. And the light was the same light that lights the hearts of men, which is the light of God. At this time he was known as the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Not anything was made without being made by the Word. So the Word gave voice to the Father of creation. And this light is Jesus Christ. The Word became flesh and dwelt among men. So Jesus is the Word of God, who was with God in the beginning. So now we see that light came into the world. This was before the sun or moon or stars or anything. So God came in His presence, and He lit up the darkness. The light conquered the darkness and came forth, because there can be no life without light. So first the light, and now God is going to give life to the earth. So on the second day, the skies, the water were separated, and the skies from the sky above and the waters above the firmament and below the firmament. So God divided, God called day, He divided the night light from the darkness. He called the light day, and He called the night darkness. So this was the second day. So He divided the waters from the waters and into one place, and He called them seas. And then on the third day He said that let the dry land appear. So on the third day the earth was delivered, and this was the birth of the earth. Now, of course, at this time it's just a newborn earth. No grass, no trees, no nada has been planted up on the earth. So God has to house So since God gave man authority over the earth, man has not yet been created, but man is the next step in creation. Now, keep that in mind, because in the first chapter of Genesis, the Word of God is speaking everything into existence, but it's not yet manifested. The manifestation of the things spoken in the first chapter will not occur until the second chapter of Genesis. Remember that. Now in the second chapter of Genesis, He said, "This is the generations of the heaven and the earth in the day that He made it." When it says in the day, the singular day that He made the earth, heavens, and the earth, this is God's time. Now God lives in eternal time, millennial time. His one day is 1,000 years. Now, in the beginning, Adam had lived in the same, was created and placed in the same time. He was placed in the Garden of Eden in the eternal new earth. But the new earth, man sinned in the new earth. So he had to be taken out of the new earth and put back into the earth which he was made from. And this put man back in mortal time. So man could now, he could die, and by being able to die, he is put into a place of mortality. So now he's subject to times, days, years, and months, and seasons. Okay. Now, and the reason for this was because of sin, and God, because he did what God told him not to. He eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and therefore God cursed Adam, he cursed Eve, and he cursed the devil, the serpent. And now Adam is taken out of the new earth, and he's placed in a land which he was taken from. And now the earth is cursed because for his sake, because he has disobeyed God. Now his curse is that he's going to have to work and earn his living by the sweat of his face. So, and Eve's punishment was pain in conception and childbearing. And of course Satan's, the serpent's curse was that he would crawl on his belly and eat dust, which is what the snake that represents the serpent does. Okay. Now, we get over here. We know that Cain and Abel was born, and they brought a tithe to God, and the first tithe that, and the offering that they brought God, well, Cain's offering was rejected, and Abel's offering was accepted. So God had respected Abel's sacrifice, tithe, but he did not respect Cain's. So Cain was angry with his brother, and not the sacrifice was just an excuse. He was angry because God found favor in his brother, with Abel, and rejected him. So he was jealous with his brother, and he killed his brother Abel. So then God punished Cain and ran him out of the land where he was, and to be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. So he went into the land of Nod, and there Cain met his wife and began to bear children, and that's where the lineage of Cain comes in. Alright, now here in chapter 5, it's actually in the last verse of chapter 4, the godly line of Seth. And this is where we're going to take up. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and named him Seth, for God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. And as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. Now we'll go to chapter 5. But notice this, right here is where men had went away from the Lord with Cain, and until Seth was born, and now Seth and his had brought his, and his sons will take up the righteous lineage of Abel. So they began to call upon the name of the Lord. This is the book of genealogy of Adam. In the day that God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created them male and female, and blessed them, and called them mankind in the day they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and named him Seth. Okay, this was recorded in the 4th verse, but this is where God begins the line of Seth. After he begot Seth, the days of Adam were 800 years, and he had sons and daughters. Okay. Now we see that Adam was 130 when he had Seth. So we now we understand that because Adam was 130, his wife, Eve, Seth's mother, also would be 130 because she was created in the same day that Adam was created. So Adam and Eve is 130 when Seth is born. And the total days of Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And that's how long Eve lived also, 930 years, because in the day that they eat of the tree was the day they died. And so they are created together, and they die together. Seth lived, this is verse 6, Seth lived 105 years and begot Enosh. After he begot Enosh, Seth lived 807 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. Okay, now this sons and daughters is where comes in that Adam and Eve also had daughters. So this is where Cain, the wife of Cain, had to come from. It was a process of time that Cain went into the land of Nod and met his wife, because there were no one on the earth, no other man on the earth except for Adam and Cain when Cain killed Abel. So Cain was sent out of the land, so he was sent away from the family. So he had to wait until Adam and Eve had more children and daughters, and then Seth had daughters, sons and daughters. So the lineage, now we don't know how many years this took, but they lived long lives then. So so everything was as a process of time, and everything was a process of faith also. Enosh lived 90 years and begot Canaan. After he begot Canaan, Enosh lived 815 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. Canaan lived 70 years and begot Mahalalel. And Mahalalel begot Canaan, lived 840 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. So we see that they had long lives. This goes all the way. 16 is Jared, and Jared is the second oldest man to live. He's 962. And then we have Enoch, who didn't live as long, but he walked with God. He's the one that was taken. God took. And so all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. After he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God had took him. Alright, we're going to leave off here on this. And we know that Methuselah was the oldest man to ever live, and he was 969. And he was Noah's grandfather. And so this starts a whole new creation with Noah. God does. So we're going to close out our teaching right now, and we'll start up next time. Thank you very much. God bless you.